sometimes I think people have marketed and focused on the user when they really need to be testing the audience and what's valuable to the head of school, to the teacher, right? If I'm selling consulting, the teacher's not going to care. But the head of school, if I can get their kids more active and engaged and building and prototyping and doing entrepreneurship into the community, the teacher or the principal is going to be going, yeah, I want kids like that, right?
Hey, this is Nick Armstrong, and you are listening to the Founded in FoCo podcast. Every episode, we get a chance to talk to an innovative mover and shaker who is doing cool things to connect our community in the world of nonprofits and freelancers and creatives and entrepreneurship. And today, we have just such an individual with us, Mark Schreiber from the CSU Institute for Entrepreneurship. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Nick.
What do you do at the Institute?
Yeah, so I guess my official title is Innovation and Entrepreneurship Specialist. So I'm part-time at the Richardson Design Center teaching design thinking, human-centered design, rapid prototyping, and then I'm part-time over at the College of Business teaching their Venture Validator program and community programs and K-12 entrepreneurship programs.
So you're not busy at all.
No.
You just mentioned like 4 ginormous resources in the community. And let's unpack those just a little bit. Tell me about what the Institute for Entrepreneurship does at CSU.
Yeah, Institute for Entrepreneurship, we're just a zero barriers kind of approach to getting information out there to the community. We want to help people for free, basically. So we have Venture Validator programs that we run in the spring, fall. We do 1.0, 2.0, even like a jumpstart and some incubators for students as well. And we bring in community members, faculty, people that are in labs trying to spin out or spin up new products and services. And then we just help them understand, hey, is your product worth and walking out, worth going to market, and kind of all the processes to do that, which one of them is the big customer discovery portion.
How does the Nancy Richardson Design Center fall into that mix?
Yeah, it's really interesting and fun because it works really well together, right? When you're building something or making something, you want to make sure that you're hitting it for people, that it's actually solving a problem, that there's a pain point, right, in business. And so at the RDC, Nancy Richardson Design Center, I teach human-centered design, which is really the essence of any business, right? If you get it right, you solved a point, people give you money to solve that problem, that pain point, and then you have more money to be able to solve more problems, and it's a happy little cycle, right? So yeah, so RDC allows me to kind of stay in that human-centered design portion. But then also they have all the fabrication tools and techniques over there, from laser cutting to 3D printing and sewing and all that. So when you dream something up, you can then design it, make it, and then walk on over to the other side of campus and you can learn how to sell it or why people would actually want to buy it. So yeah, design, build, sell. That's kind of what I do.
It's like an excellent iteration of the product lifecycle. And then you mentioned also the Venture Validator. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Venture Validator's 5 sessions. So there's 3 sessions of Venture Validator 1, all free to the community. We do it in person and virtual. I think our next session, actually, our next cohort, 27 maybe. We've done 26 cohorts already. 27 is starting here. Mid-February. You can get on the Innovate at collegestata.edu to look at that. But then it ends the same day as my presentation, that night of Founded in FoCo. So there's a lot of things to do, like you said, in a lot of different worlds. But yeah, the Venture Validator program really is getting people to understand, does my idea have legs, right? Can it stand on its own? Does it have what it needs? And we do that primarily through customer discovery, through interviewing, through really understanding why people want maybe what you have to offer, and if not, how to pivot so that you're fulfilling the need in a better way. And we walk them through the business model canvas, which is just a tool to help decipher all the different parts of your business. So we go from value proposition to your customer segments and your channels to get there. How are you going to keep people? How are you going to get people? How are you going to do ads? What's your revenue streams? And then the second part of Venture Validator, the 2.0, is kind of the other half of the canvas, if you've ever looked at the canvas, which is more the back of house stuff, right? All the things that we really need to make sure, but you don't even need to do that unless you have a problem and a customer segment that marry up well. Then you can move over to, can I make money from doing this, and what's my IP, and what's my what am I going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to make this happen, and is my cost going to outweigh the what people are willing to pay, and all that stuff. But that all comes down from the Venture Validator 1 portion of it.
There's been 26 cohorts. I graduated from CSU in 2007 with a degree in business. Go Rams. We didn't have hardly any of that stuff when I was there.
Yeah.
And to see the growth of the College of Business and the Institute for Entrepreneurship in particular, and all these awesome publicly available tools come to light is just such a heartening thing. And what a wonderful resource for our community. What are some of the things that you hope or have seen come through the Venture Validator that you hope to be successful in our community, people that you're particularly rooting for?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of great programs or a lot of different ideas that have come through there. We've had a bunch of engineering students even go through it, and they're working on things like prosthetics that are cheap to build in other countries. So ship over a kit with a 3D printer, but then kids, as they outgrow their prosthetics, can basically build their own. So they're doing some, the product isn't for sale necessarily, but it's still doing good, right? And our whole mission is to do good through business, not just make money. Now, if we can make money to do more good, great. Obviously, it's a nice cycle to have. But yeah, so we've seen that. What else did I see? There's somebody who's working on a kayak carrying device. She was a little bit shorter in stature, and she just was like, this is such a hard thing to carry. Actually, a stand-up paddleboard as well. She kind of for both of them. And she was looking at some way to prototype and design just an easy way to get it to the water. But before doing that, she just went out to the paddleboard area and just started asking questions. Hey, what do you guys think? What's the hardest part? Without like baiting them, right? But what's the hardest part? And really trying to get some authentic understanding of the problem if it wasn't just her. And she found it. And so she found a rapid prototyping house in Longmont that's actually helping her build kind of like a dolly to bring this thing down to the water, and then it folds back up, and it might even stow on your stand-up paddleboard. So that's been a pretty interesting one. And then we have people out of the lab. iCore is a section. It's like a grant-funded thing by 10 different universities, where they try to take research and then turn it into products. So we got a lot of students in that, and I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. So,
and these are products and projects that are open not just to CSU students; they're open to the entire community.
Yeah. So the stand-up paddleboard was a community member. We have somebody that's doing, in the last cohort, was doing helping people to acclimate to high altitude through a natural system that she was using and trying to sell. And they were both community members. We had other people that were just trying to find some things with drones, the community members. So I'd say we probably have about a third community, a third undergrad, and a third faculty or lab kind of spin outs.
You really can't undersell the value of early failure. And failure, right? We talk about failure as a dirty word kind of in business, like, oh, these cost a lot of money or whatever. Early failure doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't cost a lot of time. You can validate your venture with help and support and experts. This costs a lot less to fail at this stage than it does in the future. What makes a participant in Venture Validator more successful than folks who are less successful?
Yeah. I think it's a bit of a wake-up call sometimes. Sometimes I feel maybe a bit like a therapist or counselor in business, in terms of saying, hey, let's really make sure that you're not charging ahead with this idea, because I have them too. You have them too. We all have them. Like, that's where I live. I've got this great idea. It's going to change the world. It's going to be awesome. But we just help slow people down and really go ask people, really go talk to the customer. And don't say, is this thing awesome? They're just going to give you vanity data, right? But, what are the real problems in your life? So I think Venture Validator, I mean, the ethos, the center portion of it really is all about knowing your customer, knowing their needs, knowing them better than they know themselves. And quite honestly, it's a skill that needs to continue as you do a business, right? You should always be talking to your customers. You should always, yes, you don't want to get that call of this thing isn't doing good. But I'd rather, well, tell me why, right? Tell me what I can do to make it better so that I can learn from it. Maybe this relationship's not going to continue because I blew it, or as a business owner, who knows, or it just wasn't the right fit. But tell me so I can see where I can grow and where I can help. So I think there's just an authenticity that helps people be pragmatic and practical in terms of saying, hey, I'm actually going to go talk to real live human people, and discover what their real needs are. And that's what makes it successful.
What was your
Secret
pathway to
sauce.
get into the Institute?
Actually, I think Startup Week there, Nick. I think it was. Yeah, I was over at the RDC doing some classes over there, and I had developed my own early stage creativity card deck. So I was going to do this kind of huddle store thing before the pandemic, and then nobody wanted to touch anything or be together. But it was a creativity deck that just allowed you to help spark creativity, right? And so I had it, and I was going to Startup Week. I'd been going for a few years there, and yeah, I walked into one of the sessions and they were talking about Venture Validator. And I was like, hey, this is what I already do. Right. And so kind of talked about it. And then I'm not sure exactly where, but I met someone on the team, and then they had a grant opening, and I helped them build or work out a grant. And then, they said, hey, can you come join us full time? I said, well, how about part time? Because I'm doing this thing over here. And so yeah, they kind of um, made something that worked with all the different pieces that I have. But yeah, the human-centered design thinking, right? It's empathize, define, you know, ideate, prototype. And if you don't prototype, then it's hard to really to show somebody. Prototyping really is just a tool to talk about, right? So we do that in Venture Validator too. So Venture Validator and design thinking really do like line up really well. We use a lot of the same types of tools and things. And when you look at corporate, they're still using them. Design thinking's a good human-centered approach, just to make sure we're checking all the boxes, right? Before we go fail for expense for a lot of money.
Did you ever launch your deck, your creativity deck?
I had a booth, Nick, at South by Southwest, which is coming up here, EDU, in March. I had a booth in 2020, right, in March. Not the best time. Um, and that was one of the first conferences to cancel. They canceled Sunday night. I still have banners and T-shirts and everything. I mean, I'll bring it back out. It's a good thing. It's a whiteboard, so you can write on it. And honestly, I was going to the conference to fail early, right? I kind of wanted to get to the conference and actually have it, but I had a table all set up, and it was like this activity, like people were coming to do activities. So it was perfect. And I was hoping just to get feedback and people go, no, why? Why are you using it? I don't understand it. And then just write down all the things and then take the next iteration. But yeah, I've got boxes of them back here if you want. I'll bring you one. They're pretty fun. Yeah, you can erase on them. They're whiteboard material with different prompts and icons and ideas on them. So yeah.
It's an idea to do for a resurgence.
Yes,
So
yes.
so many things. You're not the only one that started a business during COVID. I started my hot sauce business during COVID.
Oh,
It's just something came out of
right,
all of the things that sort
right.
of came to pass during that time.
Yeah.
You got to do something to keep busy. Yeah,
Time to pull it
exactly.
back out. Hey, if they come to the customer discovery seminar, I will bring that deck, and I'll let them help me and learn the discovery process all at the same time. They'll be my guinea pigs. Too strong of a word. They'll be my helpers, happy little helpers.
Early prototyping test
Early
audience.
adopters. They'll be the early adopters. Who doesn't want to be an early adopter?
There you go. It's I'm in marketing for a reason. Um,
Yeah, right.
you mentioned design thinking, and
Yep.
as an emphasis of good entrepreneurship, stewardship. And my thought process on this is that a lot of service-based entrepreneurs have a hard time wrapping their minds around design thinking for their businesses as opposed to someone who's more product focused. How do the principles of design thinking and that methodology apply to someone with a service-based business?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not, prototypes aren't just prototyping for a physical thing. You can do UX, user experience, UI, user interface. There's actually a new little tool out there, AI one called UIZard, and you can type a prompt in, and it'll give you a fake app, right? And then you can go hand that app to somebody, and you can see how they run it, right? You could do, I mean, and too, you could set up a website back in the day that heat map things. You can do it a lot quicker now. You're basically you're trying to fail your idea in it, whether it's a product. In some ways, in a service land, it's easier because you're just trying to mock up something that would help them understand the service, and typically that's some sort of ad or landing page or something that lets you authentically understand if they would buy it, right? And there's some ethical ways and maybe unethical ways, but there's some ethical ways like smoke and mirrors, kind of smoke screen web pages that you can set up where you basically show a product. And a lot of places have done this. Show a product, you don't say that it's actually for sale, or you show a service, you don't say it, and then you see how many clicks you get, and then when they get to the final page, you say, hey, this is actually a test, we're hoping to launch this if you'd like to be on our email list. Well, now you've just got an email, right, from them, and you've got all the different clicks of what they did. You can see, did they click the about section first? I mean, so it doesn't have to be, you don't get to, I mean, you could go with a piece of paper and watch the service thing happen. Have you seen what's the hamburger company, The Founder? Did you ever watch that movie? The Founder? It's about the first McDonald's, and they want to redo the whole way, the fast food, right? There was no fast food. So they're trying to figure out the flow of how do you get this thing out faster, right? Service. They're not making new machines. They're just changing where things are. And you're going to put this on a dollar and you're going to turn over here. And they have a ladder and chalk and a tennis court, and they just mock it all up. And then they run the service and they go, no, timing didn't work. So yeah, you can do it. It's all about empathizing the beginning and prototyping are really the two new parts, if you may, of thinking, right? You're still going to ideate, right? You're still going to define, you're going to test, but that prototype to get feedback, whether service, visual, an ad, a flyer, right? Talking to people, empathy, those are all the things. And that's we're basically going to miniaturize all these things into the shorter customer discovery workshop at the event. So come learn more there.
There's a question, I think, along that same line of entrepreneurs who invest a lot in these educational models for success in their business and trying to figure out which one applies best for them. Does Venture Validator kind of have that wiggle room in there for them to say like, oh, well, I didn't really like the business model framework, or I don't like the entrepreneurial operating system. And can I pull pieces and bring them into this model? Or is it much more like, here are the very specific things to do in order that we've seen lead to success?
Yeah, I think we're using the business model canvas more as just an organizational tool to be able to make sure we hit all the different aspects of it. There's pieces missing in there, like competitive landscape. That's not in the BMC. Who your competitors are huge. It's blue ocean, red ocean. I mean, all the different pieces, and there's so much, right? We could have stacks and stacks of entrepreneurship books that have amazing information. So for the Venture Validator course, it's more about not just leaning on the things that you like to lean into, but really having to kind of do the work of all of it. And then, yeah, pick and choose, what pieces you want to do. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to interview or have empathy for others in some form or fashion, it's kind of hard to do the rest, right? So that really is the foundation and the pinnacle of, or the big need of anybody in it, whether they're going to pick and choose or not. But yeah, and so it's not a system that says, hey, here's the gold standard, as much as hey, let's look at all the things that maybe you haven't looked at.
If one
to be
thing's true
honest.
about entrepreneurs, the formulaic doesn't always work for them, just based on
No.
personality types.
Yep.
What trends are you seeing come through Venture Validator that you are super excited about?
We've got, and we do surveys every time just to try to get feedback because we want to learn, and we want to iterate and want to make it better. We're tweaking things already right now. We're changing things and trying to make it more interactive, at different ways and different times. But I'd say what has surprised me is that people are surprised that you should to learn some of the things. Like in my mind, I go, well, yeah, first step is do people really want it? Second step, okay, go build 500 of them. No, that's not the second step, right? So I think the first session is what people they just get their brains blown a little bit in terms of all the things that, oh, yeah, I should think about that, and I haven't. So I don't think there's a formulaic answer to even to that one of what people have gotten out of it because everybody's in a different place. But I've noticed that session one, they're like, wow, that was really interesting, or even just little sound bites. Like one of them last time was that your user's not always your buyer, right? And I guess having done it so many times that it's just kind of there. I have my own business too, and I do educational consulting. My user is not my buyer, right? At the end of the day, the user is the kid, the secondary user is the teacher. I'm going through three layers. I've got to go talk to the administration, maybe even the superintendent, right, to be able to actually affect my final user, whether teacher or student. So sometimes I think people have marketed and focused on the user when they really need to be testing the audience and what's valuable to the head of school, to the teacher, right? If I'm selling consulting, the teacher's not going to care. But the head of school, if I can get their kids more active and engaged and building and prototyping and doing entrepreneurship into the community, the teacher or the principal is going to be going, yeah, I want kids like that, right? So the same thing with they have a pulse oximeter, right, from Owlet. We use that example sometimes. Owlet's not hadn't done well for other reasons, but at the beginning they tested it and they said, "Hey, nurses love this. No wires, perfect." And the administrators of the hospital were like, "Well, yeah, that's great, but it's not really good enough for us for all the other hassles that it would create. And we we don't. It doesn't. It's just not cost effective, right?" And so for the hospital administrators, they're like, "Nah." Nurses were like, "Yes." So then they had to go find another audience. So, and that's pivot. Nobody likes the word pivot after the pandemic, but you got to pivot, right? Once you find your right person.
That ingrained knowledge that is sitting in our community is such a valuable resource. What other things does CSU do, or that the Institute for Entrepreneurship does, that folks wouldn't necessarily know about that they should know about?
Business showcase where students pitch and get funding from the institute and from grantors out there. That's fun, and they have so anybody can come to that. It's in the afternoons, somewhere in April, I believe, March, April, I think April, and it's just a lot of them are service. There was fan base came through there. I don't know if you know fan base. They were looking at, yep, um, and then music by masses. They went through that pitch fest and our music for masses, and so yeah, a lot of the ones that kind of start out here and that become part of the entrepreneurial community in Fort Collins and in the northern Colorado, right, kind of have maybe gone to business school or maybe they weren't in the business school. So it's kind of fun to see that. They also do a program that's more for students. They also do a little mini pitch fest right before Christmas, right for winter break there. And that's a fun one. I think you were at that a couple years ago. And so that's always a fun little time. And then there's a lot going on at Spur right now. So, with CSU in Denver, if people haven't got a chance to take a look at that, they have some open house days and you can go down there and see all the different stuff. And I think if nothing else, it's really interesting for the agricultural food, people that are doing food businesses. They did a little food incubator kind of there where they came by and people could do the cottage industry style, direct consumer type hot sauce, right? Where you don't need all the big stuff to test it out. And I think farmers markets and all those things are great to do. So yeah, right now those are probably the biggest ones, Spur and Venture Validator. And then from there, they have the Accelerator, Venture Jumpstart. And then there's a lot of mentors too. Million Cups will pull people from Million Cups. Entrepreneurial Eats, they have those once a month where they bring in somebody and talk about different pieces. So even just contributing to some of these younger entrepreneurs is a great way to build a connect to just the bigger holistic entrepreneurial community here in Northern Colorado.
The piece that you have referenced over and over again is that there's like a larger community, and there's steps to take with this, and that these people that come together with different sources of knowledge, different levels of knowledge, that everybody sort of contributes to everybody else's success. And there's so many different folks that are in and around not just the CSU community, but she just mentioned 1 Million Cups, the different meetups, Startup Week, Founded in FoCo, Startup Week,
Yep.
all of these different places where you can meet and connect. And that connection is really the crux that drives everything forward. Connecting with people, getting those first customers, getting their testimonials, those early users. What a great model for success, no
Yep.
matter what it is that you're doing.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I think I've really enjoyed this community, being part of it in so many different ways now too, right? As a business owner myself, but also in being able to give some things to the younger crowd coming up, and then retirees. Somebody was I think did the not compulsory, but did the choice retirement of Intel and was at the last Venture Validator and was just like, I don't know, just trying to figure out what might be fun and might be interesting. And so I've met so many great people. And honestly, at the last of the 5 sessions, some of the ones that just stick around, mostly community members, are I feel like they're like, what's the next? What's how do I stay in this community? So I think that might be a pain point that we could solve somewhere, right? Is how do we continue to have these types of events and connections and networking where people can just rub shoulders and become better because of it and ask those questions instead of trying to hold that knowledge in, like, I don't want to share it. That's not what we do, right? We're sharing all the time. So ask me what you think about or what I really think about your idea, and I'll tell you what I really think about your idea because I've had ideas, and you have too, I'm sure, that you've taken way too long and became too precious to you. And when you finally, it was like it just pulled a band-aid off, It was way better just to sunset that than to continue on. And I think that's a big part of this community too, is just that honest, practical, not mean at all, but in a way that really helps each other. Yeah.
Tell us about your session at Founded in FoCo.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that I covered there, we're going to condense into the customer discovery, which is really design thinking and venture validator portions put out there and packaged up into, hey, let's really take the foundation of everything that I tend to do, everything that I find valuable in terms of getting new products or startups or services out there, and try to figure out how do we discover who our customer is in one session. So without having to go out there, I've actually got some interesting AI tools that a friend of mine developed that I'm working with my classes right now with at CSU, where you can develop your own little persona, basically, and then you can chat back and forth and interview it. Now, I don't think it's necessarily as great as a real person, just because you don't know exactly is it giving you vanity data or not. But it's been pretty spot on, and so I'll give access to that to people, and then also just interviewing each other in the room, and then a whole list of resources to go out, and then they'll have access, obviously, to come and do a deeper dive at Venture Validator. But this would be kind of the primer course if they just want the fast session and all what I think is the most important parts. So that's what we got.
Let's say somebody out there listening to this podcast is building their schedule at foundedinfoco.com. They're building their schedule, and they see your session, how do they know if your session is right for them?
Everybody should come to my session. It's right for everyone. No.
Let's narrow it down to the target market.
Yeah, there you
Who's
go. There you go.
I am X, and
You are.
I
You
must
are.
attend Mark's talk.
Yeah. I mean, if you're new, obviously, I think there's the better potential there. If you're spinning out new ideas or trying to figure things out, it's a great place to start just to really be honest with yourself and see and get the tools that can help, like you said, Nick, fail early and just not hold on so dearly to the idea that probably could just morph maybe just a little bit and become something that really amazing. The persona, I guess, we'll talk personas when we're there too. The other archetype, right, would be somebody that's in there that has an existing business, but is looking to develop a new target market, a new segment. Maybe they have some, uh, yeah, depending on whatever it's, whether lawn mowing, babysitting, dog walking, right? There can always be a different target market, whether it's, is it, who was the tilt? Anyway, I keep thinking of different sessions I've seen at Million Cups and whatever. But yeah, anybody that's trying something new is going to be the, target number one. I think I would say, hey, just give it a chance, give it a shot, take a look, because I really do think it is valuable to start thinking. And at the end of the day, and you know this, right? You're doing this all day long with marketing, is you're trying to understand your customer. So anybody else that just wants to understand their customer better, all these same tools are going to be part of that. And then you basically, once you've got your value proposition and once you've got your customer paired, you have your marketing collateral, you have your taglines, you have maybe even words from their mouth, which are the best taglines, right? Because it resonates harder with them because they said it or someone just like them said it. So anybody that's just trying to discover their target market or hone it down, the airborne, not airborne, but the it's like that. The high altitude remedy that this lady is trying to work on. We were like, well, what about, and just the room helped. Hey, what about putting them on a shuttle to the mountains for low altitude? Why aren't you marketing it to people in Texas that are going to get altitude sickness? Why not? Why not? So just, and she's like, oh yeah. And then who's the user? Well, it's the gas station might be the person that you're going after, but not the actual gas station, but the owner, right? How do you collaborate? The shuttle driver for the ski, how do you collaborate? So anybody that wants to scope or change their audience or just get an audience is a great place to start.
What's the one thing that you hope somebody walks away from your session with?
Yeah. I hope they understand the deep value of just asking other humans open-ended questions about their within mountain biking, if they're a mountain biking enthusiast or if they're trying to build a product around that. Yeah. So the one thing I'd say is really, hey, come so that you can figure out that this is valuable to talk to people, especially in this day and age. Talk to people, learn from them, and then you're going to get some awesome information to move forward with and things that you probably just wouldn't have found out yourself.
When we have these actionable insights that you never really know who's going to be in the room, being able to provide what type of insight. And it's mostly about being in the community, being willing to share, willing to open up and have those vulnerable, open-ended questions that make all the difference to your success and your enjoyment at Founded in FoCo.
Yep.
Mark, any last words of wisdom for someone listening to the podcast?
No, well, I would just say go to all the sessions you can. I love just not just supporting other people, but I've seen some amazing speakers at Founded FoCo. I've seen some amazing, I've been motivated in this vacuum of entrepreneurial land, right, by the community of other like-minded people, right? So yeah, advice is book your schedule and go meet some people and learn a lot, have some fun, and be re-energized.
Excellent segue. Your check is in the mail. Foundedinfoco.com for all the amazing schedule. We're launching, depending on when you're listening to this, on the 31st of January. So make sure to go and check out all the different sessions that you can. Overstack at first and then refine.
Yes.
Because that'll help you really narrow down like, oh, do I really want to do this? And be open to adding things to your schedule that maybe are not directly in line, but maybe tangential, because you'll always learn something.
Yeah.
And as folks on this podcast have said before, we were surprised when we showed up to a particular room and learned a thing, and it wasn't on the plan, but that was the defining factor in their business. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
go far
Exactly.
and wide.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Mark, thank you so much for being here with us today, and we hope to see you at Founded in FoCo at Mark's session. And go to foundedinfoco.com for the schedule, and tickets for Pay What You Can is also an option this year as well. So we just want you in the room. We want you there. Please don't feel that you have to throw money at it. Make sure that you are there. Even if your business is in starving artist mode, that's just fine. We still want you there in the room. We want you here with us and part of our community. So we hope to see you there March 11th through 13th. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Nick Armstrong, and this is a Founded in FoCo podcast. For more great interviews like this one, join us at foundedinfoco.com.